In Taos, New Mexico, the strange part was not only that some people heard a sound, it was that two people could stand in the same quiet room at the same time, and only one of them would hear it. To those who heard it, the noise was not music, not voices, and not anything easy to locate. It was a low drone, a distant diesel engine, a fan that never shut off, a rumble that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. By the early 1990s, enough residents have reported it that the sound had a name: the Taos Hum. But when scientists came with sensitive equipment, listening for acoustic, seismic, and electromagnetic clues, they did not walk away with a source. They walked away with the same uneasy problem the residents already had: the sound some people could not escape, the sound other people could not hear at all. So what do you do with the noise that keeps someone awake, leaves no clear trace, and disappears for the person standing right beside them? Taos sits in northern New Mexico near the Sangre de Cristo Mountains, in a landscape that can feel almost too open. Desert light, adobe buildings, old communities, artists, visitors, quiet roads, and a wide sky that makes small sounds feel strangely exposed. That setting matters because the hum was never described like a simple broken machine next door. People did not agree on exactly what they were hearing, but their descriptions circled the same basic shape: a persistent, low sound that did not behave like normal noise. Some called it buzzing. Some called it throbbing. Some said it sounded like a diesel engine idling far away. Others compared it to a fan, bees, a jet stream, or a cicada-like hiss. For some residents, the hum was not a strange local curiosity. It followed them into the night. It affected sleep. It caused stress. Some people reported headaches. Others described it as calming or meditative, but others found it deeply intrusive, the kind of sound that becomes worse because no one can point to it. That is one of the crueler parts of this case. A loud noise can be complained about. A broken transformer can be checked. A nearby engine can be shut down. But a sound that only certain people can hear puts the listener in a lonelier position. They are asking others to believe in something that may be tormenting them, while the room around them appears perfectly still. And that is the most intimate version of the Taos Hum. Not a town-wide legend, not a paranormal headline, just one person awake in a quiet room, listening to something the person beside them cannot hear. In the early 1990s, the reports became serious enough to draw scientific attention. A joint research effort brought in investigators connected with the University of New Mexico, Los Alamos National Laboratory, Phillips Laboratory, and Sandia National Laboratories. They used equipment to monitor sound, vibration, seismic activity, and electromagnetic energy. If the hum was moving through the air, maybe instruments would catch it. If it came from machinery, underground activity, power systems, or electromagnetic sources, maybe the data would point somewhere. But the investigation did not give Taos a clean answer. The researchers reportedly ended up saying they were left with a mystery. That does not mean nothing was learned. Reports suggested that only about 2% of local population would hear the hum. A study into the Taos Hum indicated that different hearers perceived different frequencies, generally between 32 and 80 hertz, with modulation below that. That matters, but only up to a point. Low-frequency sound is strange because it does not always behave like the sharper sounds we know how to locate. It can feel less like a note and more like pressure in a room. It can travel. It can resonate. It can seem to come from the walls, the floor, the distance, or nowhere specific at all. So the ordinary explanations were never silly. Machinery can hum, power systems can hum. Compressors, fans, transformers, pipelines, pumps, and generators can produce low sounds that become unbearable to the few people sensitive enough to notice them. In other places, hums have been traced, or at least strongly tied to industrial sources. So if someone says the Taos Hum was probably mechanical in at least some cases, that is not hand-waving. It is one of the strongest grounded possibilities. But Taos had the problem that keeps this case alive. No one conclusively found the machine. If it was a pipeline, the trail did not end at a pipeline. If it was an electrical system, the case did not close around one installation. If it was a fan, compressor, transformer, or distant industrial source, it would remain just distant enough, just inconsistent enough, just poorly captured enough to avoid being named with confidence. And that is where the hum becomes less like a ghost story and more like a problem of evidence. A sound can be real without being easy to locate. A listener can be sincere without the source being external. And two people can tell the truth in the same room when one hears something and the other does not. That opens the other possibility. Maybe at least some of the hum was not coming from outside the listener. Doctors and researchers have considered tinnitus as one possible explanation for some hum reports. Tinnitus is the perception of sound where there is no external sound source. It can be ringing, buzzing, hissing, roaring, or other noises. And to the person experiencing it, it is not pretend. It is real as an experience, even if no one else in the room can hear it. Another possibility involves sound produced within the ear itself. The human ear can generate faint sounds, and most people never notice them. But in a very quiet setting, with the right person, the line between silence and internal sound can become harder to separate. This explanation fits one piece of the Taos Hum very well. It explains why one person hears something and another does not. But it does not settle the whole case. Some hearers said the hum changed with location. Some said it seemed worse indoors. Some felt they could move away from it, at least for a little while. That is where the simple medical explanation starts to feel incomplete. Even if it may explain some reports. A room can amplify a real low-frequency vibration. Walls, windows, and enclosed spaces can make a faint sound seem larger than it is. But a quiet room can also be something else. It can remove every competing sound until the mind locks onto the one thing left. The refrigerator shuts off, traffic fades, wing drops. The person beside you sleeps, and suddenly the sound is not in the background anymore. It is the road. As the story spread, the Taos Hum became part of a larger pattern. Similar hums have been reported in other parts of the world, including the United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Germany, and the United States. That can make the phenomenon feel bigger and stranger, but it may also point toward a more grounded answer. There may not be one hum. Different places may have different causes. A factory in one town, a generator in another, a transformer somewhere else. A room resonance in a certain building, an auditory condition in a certain listener. That answer is less cinematic, but probably closer to reality than one grand explanation. The Taos Hum may be famous not because it proves something hidden or impossible. The Taos Hum may be famous not because it proves something hidden or impossible, but because it sits at the meeting point of several things that are difficult to separate. Low-frequency sound, sensitive hearing, quiet rooms, local geography, machinery, stress, and the limits of measurement. More dramatic ideas gathered around it too. Electromagnetic signals, military communications, secret experiments, natural vibrations of the earth. Stranger theories followed, because unexplained sound leaves a lot of empty space for the imagination to fill. But none of those ideas have been proven as the cause of the Taos Hum, and a case does not need them. The strongest mystery is not that something impossible happened in Taos. It is that ordinary explanations all remain available, while none has fully taken responsibility. A hidden machine would make sense. So would a sensitive ear. So would a room amplifying a faint vibration that no one could trace. But each answer leaves something behind. The hum stayed low, private, and difficult to prove. Not loud enough for everyone, not easy enough to dismiss, not consistent enough to solve. The most unsettling detail of the Taos Hum is still the simplest one. One person hears it. Another person stands beside them, hears nothing. That single contradiction keeps the case alive. It leaves room for a hidden machine, a resonance in the walls, a sound traveling across the desert, or something generated inside the listener's own body. The instruments came, the reports were studied, the frequencies were estimated, the theories multiplied, but the room never quite changed. One person listening, one person hearing silence, and somewhere between them, a low sound no one has been able to name.